This is some seriously next-level AI we're diving into today.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking about AI agents that can basically rewrite their own code
It's wild.
to get better at solving problems.
Yeah, it's not even just like they're getting better incrementally.
Right.
It's like they can fundamentally change how they're approaching a problem.
Okay, so for our listeners who maybe haven't gone too deep on AI agents,
Sure.
how would you even explain what an AI agent is in the first place?
So I think a good way to think about it is like, imagine you have these little computer programs, right?
Okay.
And these programs, they can try to solve problems for you, but,
Right.
we usually have to like painstakingly design them for each specific task.
Right. Right. Like one for sorting your email, one for recommending music, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So then we get to this Gödel agent, and the name itself seems like a very deliberate choice.
It's not an accident.
It makes me think they're trying to hint at something bigger here.
Exactly. It's named after the Gödel machine,
Right.
which is this theoretical concept in computer science.
Okay.
And in simple terms, like, it's basically a system that can constantly improve itself,
Okay.
theoretically, without limits.
Without limits. So
That's kind of what this research paper is, like, exploring.
Gödel agent, a self-referential framework for agents recursively self-improvement.
There you go.
It's a mouthful, but it seems like they're going for this idea of an AI agent that can essentially learn and get better over time, kind of on its own, which is wild.
Yeah, and it's not just a clever name. It's like a whole philosophy baked in there,
Yeah. So we've talked about AI agents before, and I always think of them as like following a set of instructions.
Yeah.
We give them like, here's how you sort data, here's how you make a recommendation. But with this, how does it actually go about changing its own programming?
So it actually uses those large language models, right?
Okay, the LLMs, like what powers ChatGPT?
Yeah, exactly. But it gets really interesting here.
Okay.
Imagine you have a chef
Mm.
who can not only follow recipes, but they can also write new recipes based on like the dishes they've learned to cook.
Okay.
So that's kind of what this recursive self-improvement is like.
Recursive self-improvement, I'll be honest, I had to read that part a couple of times.
It's helpful.
But once it clicked, I was like, oh, okay. So it's like this agent can not only understand its own code, but it can make changes to it, it can edit it, it can even come up with entirely new algorithms to do the job better. Did I get that right?
Exactly.
Okay.
To use a simpler analogy, imagine this Gödel agent starts with like a basic set of instructions on how to sort objects, like by color.
Right.
But then after a while, it realizes that, hey, sorting by shape might be more efficient for certain tasks.
Okay.
So it goes back to its own code and it writes a new function to do just that all by itself.
So it's not about just following instructions, it's understanding the task and then figuring out the best way to accomplish it, which is a huge difference.
It is, and that's why this research is so significant.
Okay.
We're moving beyond simply designing smarter AI. We're now in the territory of like AI that can design itself to be smarter.
Okay.
And the implications of that are just massive.
All right, now I'm really hooked. So they actually put this Gödel agent to the test, right?
Yeah.
Like what kind of challenges did they throw at it?
So they designed a whole range of tests from like reading comprehension in complex math problems
Wow.
to even like answering those head-scratching science questions
Okay.
you might find on a graduate school entrance exam. And in many of these tests, the Gödel agent not only held its own, but it actually outperformed other state-of-the-art AI systems.
Get that out of here.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's seriously impressive stuff.
So it's one thing to say it aced its exams, but I'm kind of dying to know, like, how does this actually work in action?
All right.
Did they offer any, like, specific examples?
Yeah, so one that really stuck out to me was they used something called the game of 24.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that one?
I do. You get 4 numbers, you got to use, like, basic math to make them equal 24?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like a good test of logical thinking and creative problem solving.
Right.
So they figured, hey, let's throw this at the Gödel agent and see what happens.
Okay, so did they just, like, set it loose on a stack of those number cards and hope for the best?
Well, kind of. So it started with this, like, pretty standard approach, right?
Okay.
Using its language model to reason through different combinations.
Okay.
Much like, a human might.
Right.
But it kind of hit a wall, realizing this method wasn't super efficient.
And this is where that, like, self-improvement thing kicks in.
Exactly. So it basically recognized its own limitations and said, you know what, I need a different strategy here.
Whoa.
And it decided to go with this brute force search algorithm,
Okay.
which is essentially where it systematically goes through every single combination possible.
Okay.
which, sounds tedious for us.
Right.
But computers, they excel at that kind of thing.
Okay, so it essentially like scrapped its initial method and then just went for a different one.
Yeah.
Did it actually rewrite its own code to do that?
That's the amazing part. It did.
Get out of here.
Yeah, it's like, imagine, it's like, you need a faster car to win this race, and it just builds one.
Right in the pit lane.
Right there in the pit lane.
Okay.
Exactly. And so the results were that it went from struggling to solve some of these Game of 24 challenges
Yeah.
to like 100% accuracy.
Okay, I'm kind of blown away by this. Like, this isn't just, some parlor trick. This is like a fundamental shift in how we think about what AI can do.
Totally.
But we got to be realistic, right? Like,
Yeah.
even the most advanced technology, it's going to have its limitations.
Of course.
So, like, what are some of the, I don't know, quirks or whatever of this Gödel agent?
Yeah, you're right. It's still early days.
Right.
And the researchers themselves are the first to acknowledge that.
Of course, of course.
There's room for improvement.
Right.
One of the things they found is that while the Gödel agent is remarkably good at improving itself, it's not immune to making mistakes.
Right, because it's like learning any new skill.
Exactly.
You're going to mess up.
You're going to stumble. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the changes it would make to its own code didn't work out as intended.
Right.
Or it might even get stuck in like a loop,
Okay.
trying the same approach again and again, even though it wasn't working.
Yeah.
So it's still learning, and that process isn't always perfectly smooth.
So it's not like we're going to like unleash this on the world's problems and have instant solutions.
Not just yet, no.
Okay.
I mean, one area of like, further research, I think, is going to be how to make that self-improvement process even more robust, more reliable.
Okay.
Think of it like giving the AI a safety net
Okay.
so that if it tries something that doesn't work, it can recognize that
Okay.
and either course correct or even like revert back to a previous version.
Right. Yeah. Like, okay, that didn't work. Let's rewind a little bit here.
Exactly.
Okay. So even with those limitations, we're still talking about something that can potentially design itself to be smarter.
Right. It's wild.
That's kind of a lot to wrap your head around.
It is. It is.
Like, where do we even go from here?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. I mean, this research really it's a glimpse, right, into this future where AI isn't just a tool, but it's this, like, force that could completely reshape everything from the way we work to the way we live to how we understand our place in the universe, really.
It's a lot. So we've got this AI, right? It can rewrite its own code.
Yeah.
Gets better at solving problems, not perfect, still makes mistakes.
Right.
But it's learning, it's adapting.
It's wild.
What does that even mean for the future of, I don't know, everything?
I mean, you're talking about a complete game changer here.
Okay.
Imagine, like, AI agents, right? They don't just solve specific problems. They can actually understand and improve themselves, like, at a fundamental level.
Okay.
We're not just talking about making existing AI better.
Right.
We're talking about AI that could design even more sophisticated AI.
Okay.
It's like this, like, exponential growth of intelligence that, like, we can barely even wrap our heads around.
Yeah. No, I'm getting a little lightheaded thinking about this, honestly.
It's a lot.
It's exciting, but it's a lot to process, right? Like, this isn't about, better spam filters anymore. We're talking about, like, the very nature of intelligence.
Exactly.
It's huge.
And it makes us ask some, like, really, really big questions.
Yeah.
So if we can create AI that can essentially think for itself, how do we ensure it's, aligned with our values? How do we make sure it's used responsibly, ethically?
That's the stuff that, like, I always come back to, great power, great responsibility, that kind of thing.
100%. And that's a conversation that needs to be happening now. Not, like, years down the line when it's potentially too late.
Yeah.
We need to figure out how to build, like, safeguards into these systems.
From the ground up.
From the beginning.
Yeah, you can't just slap it on at the end, right?
Exactly.
So for our listeners out there, like, trying to, wrap their heads around all of this, what's the key takeaway?
This research, if anything, is a glimpse into a future where AI is not just a tool.
Okay.
It's a force.
Okay.
That could reshape, everything.
Yeah.
How we work, how we live, how we understand our place in the universe.
It really makes you think, like, if an AI can learn to improve itself without our help at some point,
right?
What are the limits?
Yeah. What does it even mean?
And what does that mean for us?
Exactly.
A lot to ponder.
A lot to unpack there.
Well, huge thanks for taking this deep dive with us. It's been quite a ride.
It has been fascinating. Thanks for having me.